welcome to the Lately in PHP podcast. This is episode 35. We are already reaching 3 years of Hangouts, because you record one Hangout per month, except for rare months when it is not possible. I think only 1 month, I guess.
But the Hangouts were introduced last year, right? You mean podcasts? 3 years of podcasts, not of Hangouts.
Ah, right. You're right. In the beginning, it was just audio.
Yeah.
Well, it was over Skype. Well, anyway, hello, Ernani. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
You start talking before I introduced you, and
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this month, as usual, we have lots of interesting topics related to things that happen in the PHP world. So let's move on with this. First, I think there are topics related with the latest PHP 5.5 beta versions. Well, there is not much to say about this, except there were a couple of PHP 5.5 beta. Well, the expectation is that lots of developers, now that is beta and is no longer alpha, help testing these versions. Well, I confess, personally, I have not helped much, because I even haven't not tried to even compile it. And well, but the idea is that people test it more and more, so they can fix bugs before releasing it. Ernani, have you even tried any of these PHP 5 beta versions?
No, I haven't. But I've been working on a situation where I will require to test beta versions, and I'm running some tests locally, but within this version I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
But soon I will be doing some snapshots and testing releases. I have something that will require to test those compatibility issues.
Yeah.
But I guess that this shouldn't affect anything. It's just an improvement, or an overall improvement.
Well, I think there are some backwards incompatible changes.
All right.
At least in PHP 5.4 there were some. Well, but it depends. Maybe it's not something that affects your code base.
Yeah, my code base is based off on PHP 5, so
yeah,
everything that works. And I'm not any old implementations of PHP, such as magic codes and stuff like that, so it shouldn't break it.
Right. Well, now talking about another topic, there was a discussion here regarding having better documentation for several internal parts of PHP, like the Zend engine and the PHP API, and also the S API, which is to provide different layers for interfacing with different web servers, and also the CLI and CGI modes. And the proposal here from a guy named Joe, could not figure what was his surname, but anyway, what matters is that the proposal itself is, I think it is interesting, but the problem is always the same. Who is going to do it? Who is going to go through all the documentation of the API? There was a discussion about this, and in the end, there was a challenge that was brought, which is the fact that these APIs are also changing over time, so it will be also a great problem not only to write the documentation but maintain it, because it eventually would be outdated for new releases.
It is somewhat expected. I'd say it's a nice idea, but it's despite that it's a nice idea, it would be nice to see the authors that provide those APIs or are responsible for the main to produce the documentation themselves, because they are more well versed, and it should be easier for them. But it's
right.
Documentation is always good, right?
Right. There is also that problem that not every contributor is qualified to document the internals, because one thing is documenting the PHP functions themselves, and other matter is documenting the internals. So, well, the idea is good, but I don't know if it will have any people behind it. And well, anyway, let's.
Yeah, since the C and C++, you don't benefit from in comparison to Java. You don't have a Java doc or an alternative version to or in Java you're taught from the beginning to provide documentation, and it's not a common practice in C and C++.
Well, there is PHP doc, which basically goes through the documentation comments, which very similar to but anyway, I have one correction. You said that there is no equivalent for C, but the original.
I'm aware of.
No, the original idea of using comments on documentation was exactly for C. It was from Donald Knuth. He came with the idea of literate programming, on which you would use comments to embed documentation remarks. So it did not start from Javadoc.
Right. When I meant, it's just that when I started coding Java, it was already there. And when I've been working with a C, there wasn't a default documentation mechanism bundled with the language. And I know that there is Doxygen, which is a very good ability to generate documentation from source code, which I've used in several of the projects myself, but it wasn't a common practice and bundled with the language. So that's the
I think for C it's called, the program is called C tags, something like that. But, well, I remember that from decades ago when I still programmed in C.
I see. When you were used to suffering.
When I was young.
Oh, I see.
Well, anyway, now moving on to another topic, I like to also bring, there's a proposal from, I think it was Jean-Paul. He is one of the maintainers of the PHP 5.5, and I'm trying to screen share here. Let me see if I can increase the font from the wiki. There is this proposal to basically go along, start this effort of documenting a bit more the integration with what they call the Zend extensions, which are PHP extensions that are compatible with the now the caching extension that Zend offered to PHP. Because the extensions need to be loaded by the right order to be compatible, and there is this documentation here, and it is getting improved, but I think there is still a long way to go. Anyway, this goes along the idea that Joe presented before, which is to start documenting better the the way the internals work, the PHP extensions, and so on. So despite it was a hard effort, at least somebody already started doing in part. So I think it is great, despite all the objections.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, as usual, we see a lot of people complaining about the ideas. The good ideas always get lots of people complaining.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
like public employees. When there is a change in their organization, they all start to be shaky because they are used with the situation.
I don't know. I sometimes it feels that it's just somebody that wants to participate and say something. Oh, I am against because that's a lot of work. Well,
Yeah.
don't do it. We do it. Well, anyway, people, human beings are very curious, and just watching the PHP internals list, all the discussions that go on there, find it amazing. And
Yeah.
well,
lot of social warfare then.
I have a recommendation for everybody that wants to submit proposals, because the problem, many proposals that do not pass is not exactly technical. It's a matter of persuasion. And there's a good book by Robert Cialdini called Precisely Influence. And it talks about 6 principles of influence. I'm not going to talk about it because this is not a psychology podcast, but it's just a tip for whoever wants to submit proposals to the PHP internals. If they follow many of those tips, all those principles of influence, I'm sure they will increase the chance to succeed with the proposals.
Sort of social engineering, right? Which was started
exactly.
by Kevin Mitnick.
It's people.
Yeah.
People persuading people. So it's called Influence, right. the book. And right. Anyway, enough of psychology. This is a technical podcast. And the idea here is to move on and continue to talk about other interesting topics from the PHP world. Now I'd like to talk about another
topic.
Another proposal here, this time from Dmitry Stogov. He's a long-time core contributor. I think he's a long-time employee of Zend. He used to work on the Turk cache, and then he got hired, and then he stopped working on that extension.
Remember.
And so he has lots of experience about caching extensions and also optimization of opcodes. So he was telling a bit about the way the opcode compiler is working these days. It's not very easy to perform optimizations of inline calls. Is showing it about it a bit here, and I don't know if this is readable, but the link will appear in the podcast show notes. And basically, it tells about that it's possible to do some changes to make it more feasible to do so-called inline optimization, which would be, for instance, to eliminate certain function calls.
In the end, the opcode is just trying to make the source a little bit more optimized in order to generate a better opcode instead of having to do several steps just for one line.
Right. Well, it's basically the same with other bytecode compiler engines, Java and C# and so on, and .NET. I mean, well, as usual, there was always people objecting. Oh, the problem optimizing opcode is that it takes a lot of time. Well, but since in the end it will be cached, it probably doesn't matter if it will take a lot of time. But then there was a continuation of the argument that there could be several passes, and every time the code was loaded, it could do an extra pass to optimize the code further, and so the eventual overhead would not be noticed. But I think it's a bit silly, that argument, because as it was mentioned, if in the end the compile opcode will be cached, I think the initial overhead of optimizing the opcode in several passes would be hardly noticeable, because it will only happen once.
Right.
I don't know. Ernani, you are more familiar with the Java world. In the Java world, do you have any knowledge of how optimization of opcodes, actually bytecodes, happens? Is it similar in several passes, or are there any nuances?
I don't know the details of the Java compiler, but it's pretty much a standard way. There isn't back in the past there was Docx, which was the IBM compiler, and it was a faster compiler. But despite of that, I don't know any details about it. But it should be similar to the current compiler. It's just that since Sun or Oracle right now that writes the Java specifications or is responsible for the Java source, they are the ones that maintain the code, the bytecode creation.
Right. Well, I suppose it's similar because nobody is reinventing the wheel.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, moving on to the next topic, I would like also to bring up another proposal. This is a bit confusing because by the time it was proposed, at least this time, it was already rejected. I don't know. Maybe when I saw it, the vote already happened, but most people that voted rejected it. Anyway, the proposal is to have somehow a way to provide some statistics of objects that were created for some classes. So the idea was to have some additional functions that would tell how many created objects are there in the current script that is running. And I think it could get it by class.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he wanted to have this proposal done. The only idea I do have would be to make some optimization on the reference counting and try to optimize references to...
maybe detect some object leaks.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, if you have you are in a certain position of a script that you suppose that all objects would have been destroyed with functions like this, you could figure if there are some tied instances that for some reason were not destroyed.
Right. In Objective-C, normally you don't allocate objects. So, but in the internal event dispatcher, I guess, the proper engine of Objective-C has the reference counting mechanism where it deallocates the objects from memory. So you have to retain or release the objects. And currently, at the latest version, you have what they call auto-release pool, which is a pool of objects which are auto-released by default.
Yeah, because I think that's because Objective-C is more like C++, that you have also to explicitly destroy the objects.
Right.
And then they realize that it's better to do like more modern languages on which
They made it easier. In the
Yeah.
end, it's just trying to make things easier for developers. Since the hardware
Right.
of the new phones are way better, way more powerful.
Yeah.
I guess they can benefit from those situations where you don't have
Yeah.
to be very, very tight on memory allocation.
Right, because it's a pain to do it manually. Imagine if you have to,
Yeah.
you go inside of a PHP function, create some objects, and you have to terminate the objects explicitly.
Yeah.
At least in this proposal, the idea would be to help you, because if you create references to objects inside the function, that they will not be released automatically if the references are from objects that were created outside the function. Anyway, this proposal seems to have been practically rejected. There was only one person in favor. I could not figure exactly what were the reasons, but I recall reading something like people, oh, I don't see any use for that feature. But,
Yeah.
well, the guy explained the purpose is maybe he needs to try again, or
Right.
read the influence book
Right.
to learn
Sometimes
how
you
to
want.
persuade people.
Sometimes the case is that you want this feature to be implemented, but you don't want to say why.
Yeah.
But you have your own reason.
You mean from the proposal, the
Yeah.
proponent, or from
Let
that object?
Let's put it this way: this guy is working on a mobile implementation of PHP, and he wants to make sure that he can count the reference object, so he can make a sort of a auto-release
Yeah.
engine, so it can be optimized for mobile applications that
Okay.
runs PHP. So, but he doesn't want to tell to the PHP group that
Yeah.
that's the base of his idea.
Yeah. That's like a conspiracy theory. This guy is
No, no,
evil.
no,
He's proposing
no,
something
no.
that has no use, but he has a secret
Yeah,
use.
I mean, there are some business that are tied to secrets, and you can't just
Well, I think it's
require
normal,
somebody to tell the reason.
but I think there are valid use cases for this proposal.
Yeah, for sure.
Useful, I mean, not.
Yeah,
But it's interesting the reactions that seeing people just say, "Ah, I don't have any use." Okay, shut up. So that they're news. Imagine if we followed all the millions of people don't have any use for this feature, just go in there and say,
yeah.
"Oh, I don't have any use."
Yeah, imagine if all the Ruby developers or Python developers or Java developers would say,
Right.
"Why PHP?"
Right.
So there wouldn't be any PHP at all. So
Exactly. PHP must die.
yeah,
It's too
so
successful. WordPress must die
it's
because
just it's just
everybody's using it.
yeah, it's a realm of each function. Everybody's on their internal scope of their internal functions. When you try to analyze it,
Right.
it's a mess.
Yeah.
Everybody complaining about something.
Well, the recommendation for the proponent is to try again, but this time first read the influence book.
Yeah.
Well, now more seriously, moving on to the next topic again, another feature proposal. Well, actually, this is not exactly a formal proposal. It was more a discussion about how people would take it, which
Right.
is basically a proposal again by Jean Poli. As I mentioned, Julian Poli. Sorry, I said Jean. Sorry, Julian. I'm confused your name. Is as I said, is the maintainer, one of the maintainers of PHP 5.5, and this seems to be quite active. Not only is active managing the release and also sending out proposals. And this time is proposed to have an additional feature for exceptions on which it
Right.
would allow to continue an exception that was catched. I don't know if this wouldn't be confusing or even hard to implement. Anyway,
I think there are some issues with the for loop, right? He wants to make the continue available on a catch block, but then I guess it would conflict with the.
well, no, because you can
Or
use a number when you have nested code sections that
right,
you can use continue one, continue two to refer to which loop you are referring to.
yeah,
And so that wouldn't be a problem. What I think would be a problem is maybe an implementation factor. Internally, how do you resume an exception that was triggered in a very nested section? I mean, a tree of code that was called functions that call other functions. So if the I don't know if it was even possible to recover from a catched exception.
right.
Oh, this is one of those tough things that I have no knowledge to even comment about. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if about the use cases of this. Maybe it has some good use cases, but I could not figure exactly what they would be. Anyway, this is not a formal proposal. It was more a discussion that was started there.
Right.
And well, anyway, that's all we have to say about this. Now moving on to another topic, which is precisely to tell about an article that I wrote in the PHP Classes blog regarding the use of version control systems. Well, in the article I try to explain it in terms that everybody that is not familiar with version control systems can understand it. Let me try to increase the font here. So there are several sections in this article. I try to explain what it is and why it is useful. I give several examples, tell what types of files can be managed by version control systems, basically all types, but you have to be careful for when using binaries, because that may.
And it's nice to see on this article of yours. I'm not sure if I'm going too fast here, but it's nice to see that you based off some statistics within your website.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to get there, just trying to give an overview of what the article was.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll get there. Anyway, continuing what I was saying, I also mentioned something that was not very well known, which is how you can manage the history, the revision history of a database schema using version control systems, because databases are external, but they are tied to applications. Every application expects to work with a certain database schema. And I mean the schema of tables and the indexes and whatever you have on your table. So if you, in a new release of your application, need to add some fields, add some tables, how do you do it? And I just explained that basically a long time ago I have developed a database abstraction layer in PHP named Metabase, and it not only provides an abstraction layer for accessing the database, but also to control the schema of the tables. So you can define the list of tables and fields in a separate archive and basically it can look at the current schema and upgrade it when necessary. And it's much simpler than that other technique that some people are using called migrations. We have to explicitly write some statements to go up and down between versions. That's pretty much complicated, but it could also, since it is embedded in the code, could also be used for could be integrated in the code and the files that are integrated in your project and go through a version control system. And then finally, I talk about what you commented, which is which are the top version control systems used by PHP developers. And let me go through some statistics here. And okay, basically I mentioned that these statistics are based off the number of packages in the PHP classes site that are imported from version control systems. Currently only Git, Subversion, CVS are supported, and this is related to a feature that was implemented in 2011, which was to allow people to import packages from existing version control systems so they don't have to upload their files manually. And this was helpful as a reminder for authors that submit their packages in the site. Sometimes I see that some authors go through a lot of work uploading each file of their packages one at a time, and that's very painful. That takes a lot of work. And if they have the projects in version control repositories, it would be much faster to import the packages. Anyway, that was not exactly the point of the article. Just to mention how many packages are using version control system, and put it in perspective of how many other are not using version control systems. And unfortunately, the current situation is not very encouraging. I mean, it's not very. It could be much better because much more authors could be using this, but only a fraction of those that have imported packages. I mean, uploaded packages to the PHP classes site have been using version control systems. I know sometimes some packages are very small and probably people would not have much work to upload the packages because they're just a few files. But what matters is that it seems that those authors are not using version control systems, and for all the reasons they presented in this article. I hope that developers that have read this article start using more version control systems, because they require that you have some knowledge. It's very easy to use these, and I think it may help others to figure that they need to do it, and I hope they can feel encouraged from now on to start using version control systems more. Ernani, you use a version control system, right?
I've been using. Oh, I'm having some mute issues here.
No, your audio is.
It's telling me that you muted me for some reason.
Yeah, because it was sending a lot of noise.
Okay.
But now you are unmuted.
Okay, now I can talk. Okay, so yes, I've been using Visual Source Safe when I used to develop Microsoft solution.
Oh,
I've been using CVS.
boo!
I've been using
No, just
CVS.
kidding. Do not have anything against. I think it's common practice, as you were saying.
No, yeah, back in the past, that was the only option. There wasn't a good solution for Windows development, and CVS came in, and then it began with the then Subversion and now Git. And I've been migrating all my projects to Git, which benefits a lot. There are some concepts of Git which is still something that I don't use or never required to do so. But the ability to have a distributed repository somewhere else than my computer, or into different computers, and do not affect the work of anybody, just helps a lot.
Yeah, well, in reality, all other systems allow you to have different copies of your repository in other places.
Yeah, no,
Just
the benefit here is just the ability to synchronize it easier.
yeah, well, it's always a matter of doing a merge of
Yeah,
your or work. What Git sort of defined is the way to well, basically, when you commit your changes, you can commit them locally, and then only afterwards you can commit all the changes you did, maybe several commits all at once, to a remote repository. And the advantage here is that you don't, if you want to do a commit, you don't have to be connected to a remote repository, a central repository, because at least in Git there is no longer that concept of a central repository. Every repository can be considered the center or not. And it's also useful to do full backups of repositories. And, it's also easier for people to steal full repositories from from private companies, but that is another matter. Anyway, I hope with this article more and more people start using version control systems, for all the good reasons that were presented in the article. And as a side comment, I also want to bring something that I mentioned in the article, which is related with the fact sometimes I see certain complaints against PHP classes. People say, "Oh, GitHub is much better than PHP classes," and there is certainly a misunderstanding. And I try to explain in the articles that GitHub is awesome. I think it is great. It helps a lot in encouraging people to start using Git and version control systems in general, but it is for a different purpose, which is project hosting. PHP class is not for that purpose, what I wanted to clarify is that sometimes people misunderstand the purposes of different things and start comparing, making comparisons, and it was interesting. Sometimes people do not realize that, and for facts that they did not know, they jump to conclusions. One interesting thing that happens is that PHP classes was meant to give greater exposure to PHP classes based projects, and the one thing that is done to achieve that is whenever you publish a class or publish an update, the site automatically notifies everybody that has downloaded the project before. You don't have to do any checkouts. Site just can keep track that for you, and that contributes to keep your users up to date. They do not even have to use version control systems. I mean, the users of your classes and other things. You can publish articles, blog comments, blog articles on the site, and people that have downloaded it are notified, and And there are many other features. I did not want to go through all comparisons because there is no competition between sites like PHP classes and
Yeah, back in
GitHub
the
or
past, back in the past,
SourceForge. And,
yeah, back in the past there was SourceForge, and then from CollabNet, which were mostly project hosting facilities, mostly open source projects, although they would probably have a paid.
Yeah. SourceForge, it was even started before PHP classes, and it already offered CVS hosting. Now it offers also Git hosting. There are many. Now it's very common to find a site like that, like Gitorias and
Right.
others that offer.
And to me, GitHub is a nice place where you can host your own projects and make them publicly available for employees to show off their participation under the open source community as well.
Collaboration in general.
Yeah, but PHP classes is something else. It's something where you can easily find components tied to your specific needs.
Right, and for authors, the main service that is offered is getting you greater exposure. If you have are an author, you can publish your articles, and even if the project is innovative, you can be nominated to the PHP Programming Innovation Award and get exposure. But for that to happen, there has to be a moderator,
right?
That nominates, goes through all the code, analyzes the code, and nominates the packages, provide them proper descriptions, because many authors submit to the PHP classes do not describe their package very well. And there is a moderator that goes on every month, every day, to moderate some classes, and that's a manual work that certainly GitHub does not want to go through. And and just to prove that many authors already know about that, it's good to spread your work in different sites. Many of the latest packages published in PHP classes were imported from Git repositories, precisely from GitHub. So if GitHub was all in all, it was much better and do everything else that PHP class does, why would people be importing repositories to PHP classes to publish each year? So, well, that is basically what I just want to clarify. Certainly, I'm not in any competition. Actually, I even collaborated with the GitHub people. The latest version of the API had a few bugs. The OAuth implementation was not working very well. I reported some bugs and helped in testing to see if it was fixed. So sometimes people imagine there is this big competition.
Yeah.
It's not the case. Well, anyway, other than that, Ernani, do you think articles like this are helping PHP developers that read them evolve their processes, or maybe there will be still a good bunch of authors that do not get it? It's probably too hard. What do you think?
No, it helps because there is a lot of effort on your part to produce such abilities like the Git integration, the CVS integration, and Subversion.
Yeah, I meant about the article. Articles like this, not exactly this specific topic.
I'm just taking this as an example.
Right.
But yeah, for sure, every effort that you do within your website, they are a complex change or a complex add-on. So it's really helpful to see that and track the evolution of your own to the community as well, to explain them. And some users are aware of those because they are beginners, they are learning, and the more used they can be with the standards, it's better for their own career.
Right. Well, now that you mention, I also remember something about the effort of developing this things like this. just for import the features of importing packages from repositories, it took a lot of time. It was not just developing clients to access repositories in CVS, Subversion, and Git. It's all the code that is necessary to make that integration work well. It took a lot of time, and there was a lot of effort done to make it work correctly. We using the protocols of these version control systems. They are very under documented, especially the Subversion and the Git ones. The documentation is very scarce. There, I had in the case of Git, I even had to analyze the code of the Git program written in C to understand how certain things, how certain packets are supposed to be interpreted, because the existing documentation is scarce and not very good. I don't know if it has improved. Anyway, this was implemented like 2 years ago. I don't know if it has improved since then, but probably it's not the most interesting thing for Git developers to document their protocols. And anyway, that feature is done. It took a lot of effort, but I think it was something that has accomplished its role very well.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now moving on to the next section of this podcast, on which we are going to comment the latest nominees. First, I'm going to talk about the nominees of the JavaScript JS Classes Innovation Award, which is the brother site of the PHP Classes site. And we start this time talking about the nominees that for February of 2013, starting from, we always try to promote some packages from that site, because this is a site that is still growing, and we want to encourage more authors to go there and share JavaScript components and make it the site a great resource, as is PHP Classes. So, as I was saying, we are talking about the nominees of February that were voted in March, and then in April the results come out. Ernani, which of the nominees would you like to highlight this month?
Right. I would begin with an author, which I guess is the first author from that country. Rowley. He has provided and tied to a infrastructure package. It's sort of a game board. So
Yeah.
it's which can generate and display with images and of symbols. You need to click and twist down to find groups of symbols. So it's a memory game. It's a simple game, but I guess that from this script, the users can understand how JavaScript works, like how or
well, I don't know what is happening with our audio. It is are you hitting the audio cable, because it's cutting your voice all the time?
No, my computer is still.
No, you are hitting the audio cable.
No, I'm not.
I don't know. It's odd because it's cutting.
I'm not doing anything other than my screen.
Yeah, it's high and low, it's cutting. Well, anyway, just for those that did not got what you said, but basically you are talking about this memory game object by Mark Rolich from Armenia, right? And well, that is a board game that is implemented on a web, and it is an interesting game. I think it would be useful for people to study that game when they want to learn how to implement games in JavaScript on web pages. So other than that, what other object would like to mention?
Right. Better?
Well, more or less, not much better, but try to talk about it, and if it is cut, I'll try to complement.
It's the cake 21. I've left a lot when I saw it. It's
well, right now your screen is black. No, okay, it's showing up.
Yeah. So this Artur Zins, he's from Latvia. He's one of the contributors. I guess he's on rank 1 of all-time contributors to this JS classes site. Very nice to see the creativity of him by taking a meme, an internet meme, and his CSS manipulation knowledge and adding keyframe animation. What you can do with it. So it's really funny. I've laughed a lot. That goes my credit for.
Yeah. Well, it came out a bit cut again. I don't know. It's probably some interference with some advertising that is on that page. Well, anyway, for those that may not have got it, I don't know how it will come up in the recording. This is an object by Artur Sosins from Latvia, is one of the top contributors of the site, and he decided to emulate what they call the Harlem Shake dance, on which there is people that start doing some random dance, and then there are a few others that follow. I was trying to I think he has a video somewhere.
Yeah, it's really funny the way he put his knowledge to do CSS manipulation.
Yeah, this object uses some CSS3 features like keyframe animations.
Right.
Actually, I tried to already use keyframe animations myself in some objects that I'm trying, and it is very interesting that CSS now has support for animations, and it used those animations precisely for presenting these objects. I'm trying to show the video here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I think.
That's the. Yeah. There is an initial element that starts the dance, the Harlem Shake dance, and then others follow, and they used it as
and you can see all the related videos there,
which are totally irrelevant. But anyway, well, this is enough to show this object. The idea just to show it. It is a funny effect that probably the useful part of it is to show how you can implement some animations using CSS3 keyframes. And on my part, I also like to talk about a couple of objects. Let me screen share them here, starting from this one. Ajax image uploaded by Rafael Lucio dos Anjos from Brazil. He's already been regular contributor and then sent some very interesting objects. This one can be used to present previews of files being uploaded to a site. If you go on a site and pick an object, I mean a file to upload, which is an image, you can show a preview. I was trying to show it, but for some reason the image is not showing. Anyway, he has a preview here just to show that if you want to make sure that the image file that you want to upload is a certain image, you can see a preview before the upload starts, because it uses some file APIs to access the images and render them on a canvas that you can present on a page. So it is a good use of modern browser features, like the latest, I think it's HTTP, XML HTTP request 2, that allows you to have greater control over the files that you are uploading even before you do it. Right. I'm not sure, but I think that is the case.
One question, can it do multiple uploads or it's just one per?
Well, I'm not sure about that, but probably it doesn't make sense to do multiple uploads, because it only will preview one image at a time.
Right.
It is not that it could not figure a way to show more images at a time, but I don't know if that was anticipated.
Right.
So without checking, but if it is not implemented, maybe that could be a great feature suggestion to Rafael. Anyway, I think it was a good idea to address a real problem that many applications have, to preview images before uploading. Another class that I wanted to mention is another game, this time developed by Marplo from Romania. It's already been submitted several components, which are not very simple, which look like more wall applications. In this case, it is an object that is like presenting a trivia game with questions and answers, and you can present results if the questions that you provide, I mean the answers that you provide, are correct, and so on. So it is also an interesting object. Now moving on right after this to another section on which we comment, this time the winners, the PHP Programming Innovation Award organized by PHP Classes site. This time it were also classes nominated in February, and were voted in March, and then in April the results come out. Ernani, which of these classes would you like to mention? Well, I don't know if you are mute or not.
Oh, I guess you've muted me again.
Yeah.
Probably. Right. So I picked two classes.
Well,
my browser is for some reason, so let me. Okay, now I guess you can. Class is from here.
Yeah. Well, your audio is totally being cut. Right. You could not listen what you are saying.
You're muting me.
Yeah,
That's why I
because
can hear.
you could not listen to anything you were saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I wasn't saying anything. I was just trying to increase the font.
Okay.
There is a little lag. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the class that I picked out is from incorrectly. The component is tied. I can tell about age here. This class can convert Word files to files.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I cannot listen to anything you are saying. I don't know. There's something wrong with your computer because it's totally cutting the audio.
When I share my screen, it fails.
Yeah, let's try. I share the screen and you talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
It's a new bug from the Google Hangouts.
Or there is a bug at my processor for some reason.
I don't know. Well, try explaining now. I'll try to show the.
Yeah, I can't spell the name correctly. It's Gurav Mehta. He's from India. He or she. I can't tell the gender. But this class can convert Microsoft Word Docx files to text, which is the new extension from Microsoft. So it can extract the files compressed from Microsoft Word in the Docx format, and it can parse in the document XML file and extract the text that it contains. Sure, if this follows the Microsoft standard, which is there was a huge fight between Open Documents, and there was a standard for this.
Yeah, well, they reluctant to move on to have to use a more easy to parse format like the one based on XML, but in the end they ended up supporting it. This docx format, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Docx is the standard, but there was a fight before. And it's nice to see that there are solutions here that at least can parse the contents of a docx file. And even if you need to extract data from a Word file and parse it out, I've seen this happening at job when you're posting your resume to solutions. They would parse out your resume and extract all the information existing on it.
Right.
Maybe it's a valid use for this component, so it's very useful in my idea here.
Right. There are several classes to generate and even to parse docx files, but in this case it not only parses but also extracts the text that is inside of the document. So it may be useful to for this purpose. That is why it was nominated. Other than that, what would be the other class that you wanted to mention, Ernani?
Right. The other class that you see here is convert number to text with Soros. I guess Soros is a technique where you can display the spell.
A file format, you mean?
Yeah, the spell number with text in multiple languages. So the author is Pavel Astakov. Hopefully I mentioned his name correctly. He's from...
No, it's totally wrong, but never mind.
Astakov.
Whatever. No, I'm kidding. Go on.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that at least you have one component that can transfer numbers into
Yeah. Well,
So this,
you better stop screen sharing because it's cutting the audio again.
oh, I see. Right. So yeah, it's nice to see it took the effort to provide this component, which can parse photos, files, and extract the definition to be able to convert the given number into words in a sort of any language. So it's nice to see that somebody can build a service on top of this component.
Right. Well, that's it. There is this. I was not aware that there was a format of of to define
Meaning,
yeah, rules to spell numbers in text, because there are many classes to spell numbers in text in different idioms in PHP classes, and there is not a unified solution that would address the problem for all languages. And as long as there is a file in source format, you can actually address this problem.
indeed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened, but your screen is black.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are
it's
you?
because I was doing an ugly thing here, so I had to cover.
You are obscuring your video.
Yeah.
And well, anyway, on my part, I also like to comment on a couple of classes. Let me screen share them here. The first I want to comment about is Twitter API rate limit by Feyyaz from Turkey. And basically, what this does is to deal with the problem with exceeding the limit of Twitter API calls. And what happens is that Twitter has a limit of number of API calls you can do. I think it's per day. And when you exceed that limit, the Twitter will not accept whatever you want to access, maybe post some articles, some statuses. And what this class does is to wait some time and try again. And hopefully it will have passed that time, so you can post more tweets or whatever you are doing with Twitter API. And that is one interesting class. And the other class is this one by Pashkov Denis Igorovich. I'm sure I'm not spelling his name right. Anyway, Pashkov has been publishing many interesting classes. He's from Ukraine, and I have noticed there are many talented developers from Ukraine, not just besides Pashkov, and it's great to have their contributions here. In this case, what this class does is not very trivial, but basically it analyzes words and determining the root word of a certain word based on endings. For instance, if it is a class, if it is a word that is the plural, you can try to figure the singular of that word, and this can be used to many purposes, like figuring if you are talking about a certain subject, but using a variant of a certain word, different ending. And this is useful for clustering text, as he mentioned here in the description. And well, with this, it is great to see many interesting classes. Next month we will be commenting on about other interesting classes. And I was always saying, with this we practically end this podcast, this hangout. I hope it was useful, And on my behalf, that is all for now.
Thanks, guys. See you
Bye.
next month. Bye-bye.